So we did this call last night, and through a beautiful technology, there was a computer techie hitch, and we lost the first part of this amazing conversation. And we didn't want to miss out such beautiful content. So we decided to come here today and give you that first part because it was so great. And we just want to be truthful to you that, it happens to the best of us. So let's start again. So welcome. I really acknowledge you for taking our time and being here today, listening also. That takes a lot of effort. So I am here today joined by Rochelle Osaran. She is a core fitness specialist, passionate about helping women feel more confident in their bodies. So some of you might know me already, some may not. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself, then a topic, why we're here today. So my name is Leah Peleg, relationship and intimacy coach, empowering women into intimacy. That's physical and emotional intimacy, connection, which is vital for a relationship to work, for women to feel pleasure, desire, arousal, confidence, trust in all that they need. It all needs to be there. And as women, there are many reasons why we may, or some women are experiencing pain during intercourse. For example, stitches from birth, medical diagnosed issues like endometriosis, vaginismus. It's such a complicated word to say. Trauma, sexual abuse, feeling a fear, lack of trust, insecurity, unsafe space within the relationship. There's many, or in her life, there's many aspects to why there could be pain within intimacy. And each of those things are so important, and they all need to be addressed the right way with the right support that is specific to that what is going on for us. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's not conscious. But any woman that is feeling like there's some sort of pain, discomfort, physically or emotionally within their relationship, they should always reach out for help, because we deserve to have the most enjoyable relationship with ourselves and with our partner, and physical relationship. It's so important for us as women to actually enjoy. We are entitled to experience pleasure. It's not something that we have to do. We have to give away ourselves, right? We have to honor ourselves, our bodies. And it's very common that we just put that aside and we just go through and we suffer. So tonight we are not going to be addressing on any of those specifically, like trauma, the emotional aspects of within the relationship, if there's an unsafe space, lack of trust, and all of these things, because with trauma and sexual abuse specifically, every situation is very individual. There's a story, there's a lot of depth to it. And that's something we cannot really discuss within a Zoom call because it's very personal. So, and also, Rochelle I brought her here because of her special expertise in the field of core and pelvic, and her expertise is really about childbirth and prenatal and postnatal. So that's what we're really focusing on, the physical. And there is a touch, obviously, with the emotional. So throughout my years, I've created a system where I use different methodologies such as coaching, EFT, emotional release, to help women to step into their fullest potential in life, marriage, and sexual experience. Like I said, we are entitled to that in our life. We shouldn't have to just sit and suffer and think this is normal, I have to put up with it. It's not. Well, it could be normal, but we don't have to make it normal in our life. So through my training, I have worked with many women with fear, emotional instability, relationship. But today we really, which I didn't, and you'll learn through the call how vital it is to learn about our core. Also through my training, I've also learned that the core is the center like in Judaism, in Buddhism, in Taoism. It's like this energy center. It's the shorish, it's the root. And we have women, it's so common that we have suppressed or disconnected from anything below the breasts. It's an alien part of me, shame. It could be shame, it could be like lack of knowledge, anything to anything below, a lot of women are so disconnected that dana itself can cause a lot of, not issues, but a lot of side effects, so to speak. And when we suppress, the emotions, a lot for women can stay in the female reproductive system, the abdomen. So I have seen that, and I've realized for myself the transformation that when I really connected to this part. And that's why I'm bringing Rochelle here today to talk about the physical aspect of the core and how this affects us women, and what it can face in our life in general, especially after childbirth. Rochelle has a range of knowledge, expertise in her course is unbelievable. I'm a participant of that. And I'm so excited for you all to be here today to learn from her knowledge, her wisdom, and for you to find out what you can be doing, the right things that you can be doing in your life today to start building a stronger core. So I'm gonna hand you over now to Rochelle to introduce herself more and to start this beautiful, enlightening conversation. So I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Leah, for inviting me. Thank you for that introduction. And I am so happy that you've given me this additional platform with which to reach a lot of other women, because that's really my goal. So my name is Rochelle Oseran, and for the past 37 years, I've been working as a certified pre- and postnatal fitness instructor, specializing in diastasis recti, separated abdominal muscles, which I'll explain in a moment. I am a yoga and Pilates teacher for 37 years. I have been continue to work as a Lamaze certified childbirth educator, and I'm also a Lamaze accredited childbirth educator trainer, so I do teacher training courses. I am a doula, mindfulness teacher, and I actually have gone around the world speaking at international conventions to fitness professionals, doctors, physiotherapists, about the core, about diastasis recti, just to spread the word. So women have been coming to me for 37 years to help them deal with their situation of diastasis recti. And what this basically means is that the rectus abdominis muscles, which run vertically from the rib cage to the pubic bone, have separated. There are a variety of causes for this, but the most common one is pregnancy. And the statistic is actually 100% of women around the 35th week of pregnancy have this. And the reason it's important for you to know that is so many women say, oh, I did something terrible during my pregnancy that caused this separation. No, it's normal, and your body is supposed to allow space for your baby to grow. So it's completely normal in pregnancy. Around 6 weeks, at the 6-week checkup, the incidence of diastasis recti is 60%. At 6 months postpartum, it's 45%. And at 12 months, 1 year postpartum, it's 32%. And it's that 32% of women who really are looking for tools and ways to deal with this, because it can impact many aspects of their lives. So they turn to their doctors, whether it's at the 6-week checkup or 6 months or even a year later. And they say, what is this hanging belly? And I'm not strong, I'm so weak, I can't do so many things, I have pain in my back, etc. And either doctors don't check. And recently I asked a local obstetrician about this, and she said, we're not taught it in medical school. We don't know much about it, and it's not our thing. So we refer out. And very often they refer to surgeons who say, well, the only way to really get the muscles back to the midline is through surgery, which is not true. It's only true in very, very specific cases, but most women really can help get their muscles back to a functional state. And if the surgeon says, if you do want to do surgery, you have to wait until you've finished having children. So women think that there is really nothing that they can do between pregnancies, but actually this is a cumulative issue, because the woman will start the next pregnancy wherever she is, wherever her abdominal muscles are. And by the time she's had 3, 4, 5 children, stretched and weakened state. And the doctor says it's cosmetic, so you just need to live with it. Well, is it really cosmetic when the woman is embarrassed to look in the mirror and she doesn't want to go out because people are asking her all the time, when are you due? I didn't know you were pregnant again. And she isn't. She just looks pregnant. She looks 4 or 5 months pregnant. She's embarrassed to be naked in front of her husband. So something that affects her self-esteem this deeply is not just cosmetic. And it can become this all-encompassing thoughts that women think about this all day and every day. And it seriously and deeply affects her self-esteem. And so it affects her intimacy. And you know, what is the most powerful erogenous zone in the body? And it's not the obvious one, the mind. If the woman doesn't feel sexy, then that is going to impact her physical relationship and emotional relationship with her partner. We hold a lot of emotions in our bodies. We all have our stress signature, and it might be interesting, you know, next time you're in a stressful situation to just check in with your body and see, where am I holding this stress? I know for me, it's often here in my shoulders, and I'm aware of it. And then I say, okay, they don't need to be up there. But our bodies go into this self-protective mode, and we often sort of round our shoulders and hunch over in a stressful situation as a means of protecting ourselves, almost like getting close to the fetal position. We also, stress affects our breathing. You know, if we are hunched over like this, when the stress has passed, do we rebalance? Do we realign? Or are we like this? And then with each stressful situation, we just get more and more rounded and self-protective and out of balance, basically. So it also affects our breathing. When you're in a stressful situation, whether it's a short-term stress or a long-term stressful situation, your breathing changes, our breathing changes. It becomes a lot more shallow. And this affects every part of our being, you know, from our heads to our necks. Neck pain and headaches are very common with shallow breathing, because I'm using my secondary breathing muscles rather than my primary breathing muscles when I'm breathing shallowly. We often hold stress in our pelvic floor. And that's you know, held up by research. And that can lead to, again, chronic issues, chronic imbalance in the pelvic floor. You might have heard of the discipline in a physical discipline called the sphincter muscle connection. The muscles around the mouth are sphincter muscles, and the muscles around the vagina are sphincter muscles, and they're connected. So when I'm a childbirth educator, so when you're pushing, for example, to give birth, you don't want this tightness and tension in your jaw with clenched teeth. Just try right now, clenching your jaw and imagining that you're pushing. What's happening to your pelvic floor? Do it one more time, and this time check in with your pelvic floor. Very often, maybe not with everyone, it does tighten. That's a common strategy that they work in synergy. And pelvic floor imbalance can lead to incontinence, which is leaking urine when a woman laughs or coughs or sneezes or runs or just because. And this can really be detrimental to a woman's quality of life. What is the incidence of, there are many types of incontinence. I'm just dealing with urinary stress incontinence. What is the incidence of this type of incontinence? It's 1 in 4 women at some point in their lives will experience urinary stress incontinence. And as the woman gets older, it becomes 1 in 3. So it's really very, very common, but it's not normal. Now, that's not the way the media portrays it, because the media is interested in selling adult diapers rather than in dealing with the cause, the root cause, and how to work with it and how to heal it. Another indication of pelvic floor imbalance is pelvic organ prolapse, where the organs that are supported by the pelvis, like the bladder, the uterus, the rectum, are actually pulled out of their normal place. Well, we think that all of this is from a weak pelvic floor, and we're encouraged to do a lot of kegels. Now, kegel, however you pronounce it, if you learned a kegel exercise whenever, if you took some childbirth classes, teach them this way, you might have learned tighten your pelvic floor as though you're going to stop the flow of urine. Okay, so that really is working on the front part of the muscular structure of the pelvic floor around the urethra. Some say tighten your pelvic floor as though you want to pass gas and you want to stop, to prevent yourself from passing gas. And that's the back part of the pelvic floor structure. That's the anal sphincter. Well, I'm not talking about either of those, and I'll show you in a moment. But very often, incontinence and pelvic organ prolapse are actually not from a weak pelvic floor. They might be. I'm saying very often. I'm not saying always. Very often, it's from a pelvic floor that is too tight. The muscles have been over-recruited. So tight doesn't mean strong. And it's very important to not tighten something that's already tight. For example, I've already mentioned that this is my stress signature. So that means that my trapezius and other muscles, but I'm just relating to the traps, the trapezius, huge muscle here, might be tight. So there is an exercise, it's called dumbbell shrugs. Okay, I'm holding dumbbells in my hands and I'm doing this. Now, if my trapezius muscle is already tight, would I be doing that? No. So it's the same logic that if my pelvic floor is already tight, then I shouldn't be doing a lot of kegels. Now, yes, I can learn how to do a kegel so that when I'm coughing or sneezing, I am activating like that, almost reflexively, my pelvic floor so that there isn't this downward pressure on the pelvic floor, which can be problematic. But let me show you my way of engaging the pelvic floor. So this is the vagina. I don't know if you can see it here. And this is an engagement of the vagina. The light is, let me just try and move this. I don't know if you could, yeah, that's better. Engaging and releasing. And it's very important to fully release it. And this is not the sphincters, it's not the urethra, and it's not the anal sphincter. It's also not the gluteals, which are the muscles of my butt. Okay, I'm not squeezing them together. It's the vaginal area. Okay, now I am going to demonstrate a blueberry, lifting up a blueberry with those muscles. As I am doing this, I want you to imagine in your body that you are lifting up a blueberry and then fully releasing it to the point that it comes out. That's the part that we're often lacking in awareness, that full release. Whether it's because, you know, we think we need to tighten the pelvic floor, so we walk around with a pelvic floor in a contracted state, or because of our breathing or whatever, we don't relax it completely. So take a breath, inhale. And as you exhale, lift up that blueberry. And inhale and fully release it. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this now with a cherry tomato. Okay, I could not find a round one, so the physical sensation might be a little challenging, but imagine it's a round cherry tomato, and I'm going to do the same thing, okay? So take a deep breath. As you exhale, lift up that cherry tomato with your vagina, and inhale, release, let it go. Again, exhale, you're doing this experientially and imagining that you're lifting it up on the out breath and inhaling it and fully letting go. Now, is your pelvic floor fully relaxed? Okay, you're still upright. So these are posture muscles that are minimally working. When you are upright, whether you're sitting, standing, or moving. So the best way to really get in touch with that sensation of fully relaxing it is when you're lying down, when the posture muscles don't need to be working. You know, women ask me, should I be contracting my pelvic floor? Well, when you're upright, if you are aligned, and you know, that's beyond the scope of today's session, but alignment is a critical part of this. When you're aligned, the pelvic floor is working, okay, minimally active. When you are loading it more, such as carrying bags from the supermarket or lifting a toddler, then you do need to activate it even stronger so that there is no downward pressure on loading. Because very often, you know, if you really are aware, what is your pelvic floor doing when you're picking up your kid? Is it being pushed out, or are you lifting it up? So that is the movement. We never want downward pressure. And as I mentioned, it is essential to know how to relax it. And one way is lying on your back with your legs in the butterfly position. Now, again, you need to check in with the muscles, because you can still be tightening the pelvic floor in this position. So can you fully release? And if you need to put blocks or anything under your legs because you're still holding to keep your legs from fully releasing, then go ahead. Whatever you need to do to connect to that sensation of fully releasing when you're not in an upright posture. So all muscles need this full range of motion. They need the contraction, release, full relaxation, and many muscles need stretching, but I'm not going to deal with that here now for the pelvic floor. So there are many reasons for imbalances in the body, and specifically in the pelvic floor, that can really impact all of these issues that we're talking about, such as wearing heels. Okay, a 1-inch heel changes the angle of the pelvis by 12%. And very often we wear heels that are higher than 1 inch. Alignment, let me show you a very, very common postpartum alignment with the shoulders hunched and the pelvis pushed forward. Well, you know, here I'm in a tucked pelvis position. So this has a massive impact on the pelvic floor. So, you know, learning correct alignment and strengthening the gluteal muscles in an efficient way can also help bringing balance to the pelvic floor and to the core in general. You know, we think that we're just going to look at the pelvic floor muscles and do something to target those muscles. Well, let's look at the feet and how are we standing, because everything is connected. Many women are used to holding their bellies in because they look pregnant and they don't want to look pregnant. So they think that if they suck their bellies in, that will actually help to strengthen the muscles. No, not at all, because imagine that you have a balloon and you are squeezing it in the middle. Well, where is this pressure going to go? It's going to go up, resulting in chest breathing, and it's going to go down, putting pressure on the pelvic floor. So we want a relaxed belly. I'm not going to demonstrate belly breathing, but actually breathing is shape change. And 360 degrees, that they're widening, expanding sideways and front to back. And your belly is coming along for the ride. Okay, you're not pushing your belly out, but you're allowing it to do what it's naturally going to do. And we can think of our core canister as having 4 sides. The top is the diaphragm, the bottom is the pelvic floor, the front is the abdominal wall, and the back are the deep core muscles, the multifidus and other core muscles. So when we're breathing, we're actually breathing as though this is a piston moving. So this is the diaphragm. On the in-breath, you know, the diaphragm is contracting, and it's, as we breathe in, it's moving down, and the pelvic floor releases completely. And on the out-breath, this piston moves back up, and the pelvic floor lifts up slightly. So just try this with me, please. Inhale. Excuse me. Exhale. Inhale and check in with your pelvic floor and just see if you can be aware of the sensations. Not holding in your belly. Inhaling, pelvic floor fills. Exhaling, pelvic floor lifts. Okay, so I mentioned that, you know, when do we do this? So in posture, when we're aligned, it's happening automatically. Just to repeat, if we become aware that we are pushing out, we are bearing down, then we will need to connect to that sensation, that awareness of the sensation of minimal activation in the pelvic floor. And when we are loading it more, then we need to activate it further. But actually, if we are coordinating our breath with our movements, we are breathing smoothly and slowly with movement, the pelvic floor is actually activating by itself. So let me demonstrate that. Okay, so I'm with me, please. Inhale, lifting your arms up. Exhaling, releasing your arms back down with your shoulders. Okay, maybe you can check in with your pelvic floor here. feeling it fill, and exhale, feeling it lift up slightly. But there's no loading here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean forward. So with me, inhale. Exhale, slowly lean forward slightly. Slow movements. Inhale, coming back up. Do it again. Exhale. Focus on the pelvic floor. Is it lifting? It might, in some people, be bulging, in which case, lift it consciously. Inhale. But usually, if you are coordinating your breath with your movement, with slow, conscious, smooth breaths, then this is working. It is supporting your spine. And one last time, check in, exhale. And come back to sitting. Okay.
Thank you so much for that. So much wealth and knowledge and practical awareness, like great demonstrations, and the exercises are unbelievable. So I'm hearing like a few things I just want to recap is that it's not just the pain in the vagina, like during intercourse, it's also the pain in the body as a side effect from having a weak core that is obviously going to cause, I can just imagine like any pain in the shoulder, the body ache, like a bad posture, but incorrect posture, where there's just that extra tension on the body, which obviously makes it more exhausting in the day, is going to cause someone to really not want to go into intimacy because of the whole discomfort. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy part 2. Any questions? You'll see all the details at the end.
So again, do I need to have my abdominal area checked for diastasis recti? If I feel that I have a weak core, then the goal is the same, strengthening the core. If I see this like dome-shaped, like sausage-like bulge or a pyramid, some women report, when I come from lying down on my back to sitting up, and that domes, that is often a sign of diastasis. But it really doesn't matter. If I have a weak core, whether or not I have diastasis recti, I want to strengthen my core. If I can't get on the floor to play with my kids, or I'm in real pain and don't want to lift up a toddler because it's just too hard for me and I don't feel I have the support, doesn't matter whether you have diastasis recti or not. You need to work on your core. If you have pelvic floor imbalances like incontinence, then same thing. It often goes with diastasis recti. You need to work on the core. Another reason why the kegel doesn't work is this is the sacrum, okay, this triangular bone. And from doing a lot of kegels, the sacrum actually comes closer to the pubic bone. And it's not just a muscle being tightened that we can turn on and turn off like a light switch. Women who, I said I co-owned an aerobic studio for 23 years, and there were a lot of really fit aerobics teachers and body conditioning teachers we had working with us. And many of them had very challenging births. Why? Because again, it's not just the muscles that have tightened, it's actually the connective tissue around the muscles have organized themselves in such a way that they're denser around the tightened, contracted muscles. And it's very difficult during birth to learn to release that. So, I hope you're taking away from this talk that that if you do have incontinence, it's not because your pelvic floor is necessarily weak. It very often is because it's tight. And The same is true with pain during intercourse. If a woman has pain during penetration or pain during thrusting, if she has, I'm not talking about if she's breastfeeding and then there's less vaginal lubrication, then she should obviously use, you know, a lubricant. But I'm talking even long after that. And if she has urinary problems, not just incontinence, but possibly urge incontinence, meaning she always feels like she needs to pee, to empty her bladder, or it's painful urinating, or she has constipation. Those are symptoms of pelvic floor imbalance. And very often, not always, very often, it's because the area is too tight. It does need to be strengthened. And we can't just look at one part of the body and strengthen that in isolation. Everything is connected through, you know, muscles are connected to bones, which are connected to other muscles, which are connected to other bones. But the fascia system, the connective tissue, runs from uninterrupted from the soles of the feet to the head. So everything is connected. If you have pelvic floor issues, it could very likely be because of your breathing. Because when we are stressed, we breathe more shallowly. And if a woman is in fear of her upcoming experience with intimacy, with intercourse with her husband, because the last many times it was so painful, she will tighten up the muscles. She will be short of breath, which will negatively, you know, impact her sexual experience. So everything goes together. The way she sits, the way she stands. Is there pressure, you know, is she slouching? Is there pressure both on her abdominal wall and on the pelvic floor? So nothing is in isolation, and our mind is part of this too.
That what I'm also hearing is that it's not just the pain in intimacy that can be a sign that there's, but like, just like what you're saying, I'm like, when there's a weak core, the rest of the body almost has to compensate for that weak core. And if you've got really bad backache or shoulder ache, or, you know, you're just in pain or discomfort, again, that's going to affect your intimacy, because you're not going to really want to. You're probably tired from the pain and you have no desire to go forward. And then obviously if there's more, there is also pain physically, because obviously if you think about it, the contracting of the muscle in the vagina, if that's contracting, and then penetration, that's obviously it's gonna cause discomfort. Would you say, what would be the signs when they're like, I have my idea, but I'd love to hear yours, like when the muscles are so relaxed, right? There is no tightening or strengthening in a sense. Would it be correct in thinking that the woman wouldn't necessarily feel anything?
Okay, so I really think it's important for a woman to get in touch with this part of her body. You mentioned that in your introduction. For some reason, it's almost, you know, like belongs to someone else.
It's unbelievable, really. Like, yeah. Even if women give birth, they can be so disconnected from it. It's almost like this alien thing. Right. And I think that is the foundation, right? Is to really, how can you really be intimate with someone if you don't even really know your own body?
Right. So to get to know your own body, a mirror, and I'll just describe a couple of positions. One is with one foot up on a stool or on a chair, obviously without clothes.
You can start with clothes if it's really uncomfortable, and then like one by one.
And another one is, you know, sitting with your knees bent, which is possibly a more relaxed position, and looking that way. And that's really an external getting to know your pelvic floor. And seeing what happens when I contract the muscles as though I'm lifting up a cherry tomato. And what happens when I'm releasing it. And by the way, the reason I was comparing the blueberry to the cherry tomato, I don't know what your experience in your body is. In my body, I feel that the blueberry is much more external muscles, whereas the cherry tomato is much deeper. So that's external. Then you can take a finger and put it in the vagina and see if you can tighten and release. And I think I've stressed it enough, but there's never such a thing as stressed too much. Can you feel complete relaxation around your finger? Then you can insert a second finger and open them slightly. And when you are contracting, do you feel that your fingers are being pushed together? What happens if you resist? Can you feel that resistance? And then always, always, always feel that release, the full release. Then there is endurance, which is lifting the cherry tomato with me. Everyone, take a deep breath. Exhale, lift it for, as I count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. You're not squeezing your butt. Breathe normally, but hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now you're not going to drop it. You're going to release it for 6, 5, 4. Breathing normally. 3, 2, 1. Fully relaxed. Okay, so that's endurance. And you can start, if that's really challenging, then start with a lower count. I do want to emphasize that this is getting to know your body so that you are sure that you're not bearing down and pushing out when you mean to be lifting up. Because if you are lifting a weight, lifting a child, doing any strength training, any core training, you must not ever be pushing it down, bearing down on the pelvic floor and on the abdominal wall. It should always be lifting, and we always start the core engagement from the pelvic floor. Okay, but if we are doing as we saw, if you are coordinating consciously with your mind, you're not switching off, going on autopilot. If you're coordinating your breath with your movements, those muscles are usually being engaging.
Beautiful tips that you have there. Thank you for sharing. I just want to share a personal thing. It was just like an added thing. I think so. I'm not sure, but before I got into my journey of getting to know my female body, I heard of this concept of looking, right? And I don't know where everybody else is in this, but when I started it, I could just, all the negative words came to my head when I first looked at my private parts and really explored and looked. So if those thoughts do come up, just be aware of them and replace them with positive ones, because we really don't want to create any more negative association when we're looking at that. And something very beautiful that happened to me, the more I looked and kind of just really kind of admired it, because if we really think about it, this creates life. It creates connection, it creates pleasure, and we are very much entitled to that. And it brings so much, it shifts us in our life, especially with intimacy with our husband, when we are able to enjoy the process and the connection together. Our life is shifted. There's a deeper connection. There's no stress. There's no worry. There's no feeling guilty or ashamed, right? We're really stepping into our potential. So, but when I started to really use the mirror and become aware and looked, I actually saw that it actually looked like a beautiful flower that was just opening and closing. And I shared this before, but when we are aroused and ready, the actual vagina kind of does this pulsation movement to say hey, I'm ready, I'm pulling you in. And it's so beautiful to see how that organ, those muscles really work when they're in tune and we're aware. I just wanted to
Right.
share this.
I'm going to piggyback on your image of the flower opening, because for some women that can be a great visualization for fully relaxing the pelvic floor, which should be done ideally not in an upright position, because when a woman is upright, the muscles are still on because they're posture muscles. So when she is lying down in a comfortable position, imagining the petals of the flower opening as she completely relaxes her pelvis.
Beautiful. And the awareness, and what I teach and what I understood is, the more aware we come connected to our body, our pelvic floor, all of that whole region, especially during, like, the more we come in awareness in general, and that when we are physically together, we're able to really feel the subtle sensations. It's not about the vigorous movements and penetration. Even the connecting of two can be an arousal, because you feel that subtlety, because you become so aware, right? And that's why awareness is so important. And I know with working in your course and my work itself, the awareness is the first step for any change to happen, right? It's just so powerful. I love this. Thank you for sharing.
So well, are there any questions before I, say my final piece? Anyone want to ask anything specific?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi. You're amazing, by the way. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Okay, so are there any core exercises that I should not be doing if I want to work my pelvic floor? Like sit-ups or leg raises or planks or anything that's going to be detrimental to it?
So, it's such a general question, and the answer is so general. It's, what is your body able to do?
Sorry.
In other words, what is you need to have pelvic floor, your deep core muscles, and all of your core muscles together with your breath. So if you can do that and hold the alignment of whatever exercise you're doing, then you can do it. Even sit-ups, if they are done properly with proper strategy, and the woman has really trained herself with progressive strength training and correct, effective, efficient strategy and breath, and there isn't pressure downwards on the pelvic floor, even sit-ups. Though that, I'm not going there, because that really does need to be worked into. A woman really does need to build up into that. Planks, for example, planks on the knees. Well, first she should start with, how am I in this position? Am I able to engage my core to support my spine? Then if I am, then I can go lower and try, a lower angle until I am, with straight arms on my hands with my knees bent. How am I doing there? In other words, it's a constant inquiry.
Okay. So I'm pretty fit. I'm pretty fit, but my belly after my third birth is like pretty lumpy. There's something going on. Like I have a lump on the side. I don't know where it's from. And then I got like down the middle. I don't really know what's going on in there. I can't really tell. I'm sure there's something. So yeah, so you're saying as long as I do it gradually and build up, then it's okay to do stomach exercises.
Yeah, and provided that you're engaging it all efficiently, there's no downward pressure, there's no outward pressure. You're able to manage the intra-abdominal pressure that you're exerting, and you're able to breathe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Sippy, for asking a question. I think it's really important. That sign of, how am I doing it wrong? Like, when do I know that I'm doing something wrong in my exercise that's not actually going to serve me? Like I remember you saying, like, also it's that sticking out, right, of the belly, that dome shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's also another sign that we can see that something's not right in our exercises and our posture and our pelvic floor, right?
Right. Or my strategy.
Oh, your strategy.
That means if there is doming with a particular exercise, firstly, is that doming soft? If it's soft, it's not terrible. If it's hard, then that is way too much pressure on that tissue. But we still want to reduce it. So whatever I am doing, can I engage my deep core muscles even more to get rid of that doming? And maybe I need to do that same exercise in a different position. Or maybe I need to back off. And I will build up to that. So there are so many ways that a woman can, throughout this journey of her progressive strength training, program, that she can check herself.
I have a question also. Do you notice that, I know that, working with the awareness and the energy that moves through the body, right? When you talk about the contracting, like the tightness, right? Like, and you see like the muscles tight, there's a tight jaw, like constipation, other than just maybe leaking, would you say that there's also, because there's a drain of energy because it's not kind of closed? I've heard before that when there's no tightness, that there's a sense of like energy falling out all the time. So that can be very draining. Would that be correct for a person?
This will be familiar to you, Leah, from my course. I've taken a concept from yoga that is really the philosophy of the whole course, and that is stability and ease. So can you find stability in whatever position you're in, whatever pose you're using? Just to give you an example, what we were doing here. Okay, where am I finding stability as I am in this position? So the stability comes from my feet pressing on the floor, comes from my pelvis being in a particular position, my spine being in a position, and from the engagement of my core. That's the stability. But then stability in and of itself isn't enough, because then I'm just too tense. So then I also want to find ease, and they really need to go together. And that is with my breath. And releasing my shoulders. In other words, stability without tension, and ease without dullness.
And that is really what we need to be doing in physical intimacy also, right? We don't want to be contracting and being that, like, almost like that fight or flight. We want to be, naturally, the body will contract, the pelvis, that when pleasure and arousal and orgasms come, but we don't want to be fully contracted. We want that ease in that moment, or when we're doing a certain position where there is movement and we are physical, we want to be easing into that moment as well. I think that comes going back to that aspect where you also mentioned feeling confident in your body, knowing your body, feeling at home with your body is huge. And obviously the fitness aspect that your vitality you'll bring with working on your core will bring a lot more vitality into the physical aspect of your bedroom.
And your self-esteem,
yes,
yourself is so huge.
Huge. It's really important for us. Really, really. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask? If you want to ask it privately, you can message me directly so no one else can see, and then I can say it out loud if you want. 1 second. Let's see if this is message. So, okay. Any more questions on my end? So just So you gave us some amazing, amazing tips. Like,
thank you. I do want to say, if I may.
Of course.
Firstly, I, as a childbirth educator, I always say that every single woman after she gives birth, whether she gives birth vaginally or by cesarean, because for 9 months she's been carrying that extra weight, that growing weight on her pelvic floor, she should see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. Unfortunately, it's not covered in Israel as a general rule, unless there's a problem, but every single woman after she gives birth should see a pelvic floor physiotherapist who can examine her internally, who can see, is something a little tight, is a ligament maybe, you know, pulling somewhere on a certain side, is there anything that she can release? She can diagnose if your pelvic floor is too tight. And then, you know, she may give you some exercises, but then, you know, I have created an online course called Improving Core Function. The website's improvingcorefunction.com. And this is something that I spent the whole of last year during Corona and all the lockdowns creating, because I feel it's an efficient way of giving over this information that I was using to help women who are coming to me privately for 37 years. It consists of 5 hours of empowering educational videos on alignment, breathing, the pelvic floor, efficient engagement of the core, mindfulness, daily activities, lifting, carrying your baby, driving in a car, etc. And then there is a 3-month progressive strength training program that has modifications for different levels of fitness. And I'm always here. I am passionate about helping women with this, and I will, you know, give my time, emails, Zooms, whatever.
Yeah,
so.
And I can vouch for myself being a participant. It is unbelievable. After my second child, I was like, okay, I know I need to do a bit of work. It's not, honestly, it's not that bad, but there's definitely things I can improve. For anyone who does self-care, I feel this is like the deepest level of self-care, because it's not something superficial. It's not like going for a run. It's like actually really taking care of the depth of my body. That's something that I could so easily put to the side. It's like, no, hang on, I really, I matter, not just going for a run and burning energy and getting fit, but I'm really taking care of my bones, my muscles, everything. It's just, and you just give it over in such, the content is unbelievable. There's so much information, and you've done it in a way that is so, it's in a way that is so easy to understand. And so you've guided them. I don't think there's any way that you can get lost or confused, and you've done it in such a beautiful way. So I really recommend it, really.
Thank you.
So just like I like to end my course with something a little bit fun, and you can just respond whatever comes to your mind. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say intimacy?
Closeness, emotional as well as becoming one, as well as physical.
Beautiful. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you say vulnerability? When I say vulnerability?
Letting go, opening, but in a good way, as well as stability and ease.
Love it. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful.
To be in every aspect of life.
Yeah, every aspect. Not every aspect. And I think if we get it in our body, in our mind, then we'll get it all the time in our life, right? And that's what we need. Thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your knowledge, just being here with us, supporting women in their body and their confidence and in birth, and just women in general. We really need that. We really need that support. And you can find either myself or Rachel on Instagram or Facebook, or I'll send you her email. I'll send the recordings out. And if you like the sound of this workshop tonight, definitely sign up for her amazing work course. You won't regret it, that's for sure.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for inviting me. It was
Okay.
an honor to, through you, to reach more women.
Beautiful. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.